The roadmap that we have today is very simple. The etiquette for this is also quite straightforward. And you guys, I think, are now veterans on webinars and stuff like this. So you keep yourselves muted. You can, of course, chat to us on the Q&A. You can use the chat box to communicate to us. What I would like you to do is just to know that we are there, that we are active, that you can do stuff with your hands. Let me ask you a question. How do you feel this afternoon? You can go to the chat box and type away. I know that you are engaged, right? And say, I'm feeling great. You can of course do the sign that you say, give me a thumbs up. You can go to your screen and just slip thumbs up. And I know that you're good with going, but I like the chat box because that tells me your fingers are moving. You're not falling asleep, right? So let's do that. Precious has already indicated that this is part 2. And with a brilliant, brilliant panel, they come here, as Precious has indicated, to share their hearts with us, to listen to your questions, to take your questions, and to respond to those questions. But before we have, as we know, I can see the panelists, Dr. Catherine Van Heerden, Goodnews Cadogan, Tumi Sibanda, and Dr. Vaneeta Aggarwal all the way from India. And of course, our host here, Precious. We would like you to, that were already swirling around your mind, so you can put those questions on the chat or in the Q&A. I'm going to start with Good News. I've asked Good News to give us a bit of perspective, a bit of background in terms of what his anecdotal research, his empirical research that has picked up on the subject. After Good News has given us that perspective, we'll then move on to Tumi. Tumi is an author, a consultant, a coach, and doing a lot of research around this. Tumi is going to come next after Good News. And then Dr. Catherine is going to come through and also talk about some of the work that she has been doing around this space and some of the experiences and the people that she has dealt with. And then we'll have Vaneeta to give us a view from India on the subject. And then we also, I would like, it is maybe still not, yeah, she says the network is playing out. Okay, I'm going to welcome Vaneeta. Vaneeta, as indicated earlier, comes all the way from the other side of the world, from India. And we Precious arranged that we invited to be part of this forum to give us a lived experience and observations from the subcontinent. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Jerry, and all the panelists. Really, it was enlightening to listen to all the panelists, and I must say that this corporate bullying is a very global phenomenon, because what is here is spoken by most of the panelists. And I agree with each and every point all the panelists have made so far. To add, I would say I have worked in higher education sector as a professor, as a faculty member for most of my time, and now as a CEO of a company where I deal with some students, some executives, and some businessmen as well. Most of the problems are same. From Indian perspective, I would say I would put light on that corporate bullying can be of several forms. It can be discrimination in form of, like Dr. Catherine pointed out. It can be gender-based, age-based, body shaming, or a racial discrimination, or like in India, there is a lots of castes and communities. So there can be discrimination on the basis of castes or communities in some form. There could be discrimination against women. There could be some sexual harassment form of bullying against women. But there are stringent laws against particularly caste and community discrimination and discrimination against women in the form of prevention of sexual harassment laws. But when we talk of corporate bullying in form of that comes or creeps in because of hierarchy or because of office politics, more or less, we do not have yet any anti-bullying law in place. And as most of the panelists have told, that bullying does happen, and yes, I can definitely say women can be really, really bad bullies, worst bullies at workplaces, and it does happen at places. So I will give, on the contrary to what one case was discussed, where the male boss had relationships with most of his female, and that led to bullying at the workplace among themselves. Uh, in India, there is a strong law now in place, prevention of sexual harassment. And there is one case I would explain here in that regard, that the male boss, was preventing female employees to come near him to avoid any kind of bad reputation in that sense. So he was a gentleman, but he did not wanted any kind of bad reputation around him. So he avoided, and he formed a coterie of male employees to come near him to take decisions on most of the corporate or office related significant issues. So the regulatory bodies or all the projects were handled by the male employees. Now, what happens that obviously competitive women are there, and women also want the leadership role or want to lead the projects. And so this kind of preventive act, though in good sense, was a form of discrimination. Secondly, now one or two of women employees who are in good rapport with few of these male leaders who are close to the boss started their relationship, started using their relationships, friendly relationships. I won't go to the extent of that they had a sexual relationship, but friendly relationship, close rapport, best rapport as a friends at the workplace, to demean the other women employees who are not having that close relationship with the male leader. So that also creates a kind of discrimination at the workplaces, and it also leads to bullying. Again, the root cause become a woman again here. So yeah, this is a factor that it is difficult. Women can be very good friends, but women can also be very bad bullies at workplaces. And I think the basic root is patriarchy in the system, old traditional patriarchy. So when women are coming out in the field, they want attention, they want the leadership, they want, and when they see the other woman is also equally competent, they feel threatened. And the root cause of bullying is also when the bully, the person who finds him less competent than their peers or somebody else in the organization, and generally these the other person who is the victim, he's skilled enough or better at his or her work. uh, you know these are also humble, are also soft natured. So bullies find a way to subtly bully them, for example by marginalizing them in the projects, not letting them take the preferential projects. And these are very subtle kinds of bullying which leads to isolation of the victim. So as Dr. Catherine suggested, one should always keep a logbook, and whenever you feel discomfort, just make a note on your diary that this was a discomfort and why it was caused to me. Is it really significant discomfort, or there is a pattern that these discomforts are being created again and again repeatedly by same group of people? So this will help him out, sort out the problem, and find a way to solve it out in future. Secondly, the behavior of bullies generally is seen that they work in groups. They support each other to isolate the victim. So it is very important to have your own group of friends at workplaces, and it is important to keep sharing if you are feeling some strong act of bullying. You should share it among your peers. It is very important to share it and not to keep it inside, because that anger or anxiety will keep on growing up and kill your mental peace, calmness. uh, it will create loss of productivity at work. It will create a mental loss of peace. So sleep would be disturbed, your daily basis routine, it will come on your health also. So in order to avoid that, be intelligent. One should be intelligent enough to sort the problem rather than absorb in it and soak in it and be pity about it. So one of my friends told me that in her family, she whenever she faced some sort of discomfort, and she discussed it with the nearest family. Now, family may not think in the same way as you are thinking, first thing. Secondly, they are not at your workplace, so they exactly do not understand the way you are going through the problem. So her elderly family, they suggested that you try to do much better. In her case, the bully was a boss. So they suggested that maybe you are not performing at your best, that's why your boss is not happy with you, and he was passing some sarcastic remarks in front of the whole setup for whole staff. And obviously she was feeling very low esteem, and that despite doing best of her efforts, she's being called names. So her family was suggesting that you try to do much better, or you increase your performance so that your boss would be happy. But that is not always the solution, because boss may be bullying and just trying to just trying to some suppress whatever you are doing in front of others, because he is feeling a pleasure in doing so. And as Dr. Catherine suggested, that you have to stop. You have to stop somewhere and raise your hands or voice to stop that bullying behavior. A mature person who is bullying will stop after the raising of voice first time, because he will understand that this is not going further. This person is going to answer back. Immature person would hold it back at that time, but would look for a later time when he can come back to attack again in some way, not in a very strong way. When it happens in offices, and if there are strong laws, and if you are intelligent enough to share and to counter these efforts, then generally when we talk about offices where people are not violent enough to go to the violent ways, but they go to other subtle ways of bullying. So, in that case, exposure of bullying behavior is the best tool to counter, according to me, which my experience has told by listening to my friends and by going through certain case studies. And I suppose this bullying, the corporate bullying, is a global phenomenon, because there is not a single statement that I can say all the panelists from South Africa have told so far. Any bit is different from what we are seeing here and what we are trying to combat. And definitely there should be, I advocate that there should be anti-bullying, specifically anti-bullying policy in offices, in corporate, so that HR persons are enabled and are empowered with this policy to act upon. Uh, I think that is where I would stop. Uh, Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. That was very informative. In fact, it's amazing. Good news, you are coming in next, and you're coming to deal with some challenges and some issues. But I'll start with you, because you started earlier, and you have had time to think things through. But yeah, thanks, Doctor. And preparing for this and thinking about the topic, I was actually surprised to find that there is something called the Bullying Institute, Workplace Bullying Institute. There is a bullying university where they're trying to combat this whole thing. Obviously, it's based in the US, where they try to help organizations and people to actually be able to deal with this. But the workplace, I say it's amazing because we go to work not for this. We go to work for purposes of fulfillment, for purposes of living our own vision, our mission, and we encounter this. And of course, there are challenges. I hear what the panelists are saying, but let me put it to you, good news, that sometimes it's difficult. I know Kathy says you've got to make a decision. You've got to, and Vaneeta is saying the same. And Tumi also says the same thing. The panelists are saying you've got to act. Ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen and ladies, sometimes it's tough because if I speak, I lose my bride. What do you say to that, good news? Because if I speak up, I may have no job tomorrow. Therefore, I worry about this and I keep quiet. What do you say, sir? Over to you. We come to the questions now.
All right.
Unmute.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Am I unmuted? Beautiful.
Yeah, you're good. You're good to go.
Yes, some of the solutions lie at an individual level. They lie with me as the person who is being bullied. But most of them lie in the environment in which I find myself as the bullied person. So I'll start with the environment, the workplace. The first thing that as a leader, I would like to challenge, because I know there are leaders here who are listening today. And also those who are not leaders who are being bullied, is something that they can suggest when they go back to the workplace. You have to have a policy. An anti-bullying policy is the first step towards stopping bullying in the workplace. And in that policy, you have to define exactly what bullying is. You have to create some kind of an ethos in the workplace to define ways of behavior that make it very difficult for bullying to become the norm. And to take it even further, a great leader or a great leadership group in the workplace should appoint anti-bullying custodians in all the corners of the organization.
What do you have to say around this? Because people are, the question being raised is that if HR, if I can't trust, and I think this question also arose the last time, what do we have to say around this? Should we actually isolate individuals within the HR instead of lumping the entire thing with, these are the perpetrators in HR? Is this fair or is it unfair? End of the panelists. Tumi, Kathy, Vaneeta, what do you have to say to this one?
I would again say it is true that HR becomes sometimes very powerful department, and some can behave as bullies because they have the power to decide upon the increments, upon the extensions, upon the inclusion of the employees. So they have great power, definitely. But if we have some anti-bullying policies at the foundation of the company itself, which is up to the founders of the companies, that when they are forming the companies or even the large companies which are already in existence, if we can raise awareness about anti-bullying, this campaign, then there would be more and more stress upon HR to keep these, even if there is no fixed legal, because to bring in a law takes much of time. So these kind of behavior, if they go into the mindset of the company, then HR is also enabled and HR themselves would be wary of using any bullying tactics.
Okay. Tumi?
Okay, I have a slightly different view, and I'm casting back the responsibility to HR, Dr. Gule, to
Yeah.
HR.
Yes.
It's how the HR has positioned itself in the organization can either steal their power away from them, or it can actually empower them. And in corporate South Africa, I have observed, this is not empirical research, but I observed that HR, the power of HR has been stolen, or HR has not owned the power that they have. And as a result, when people run to HR feels powerless because they don't have the much say when they are in the boardroom. So you will learn from the culture of the organization how HR is perceived, and how HR is being perceived in the organization will determine whether people issues, which corporate bullying is part of, whether that will be dealt with the vigor that is required or not. So the question that we need to, or the issue that we need to address is that how much power does HR have, and how much power is HR afforded, and how much is HR taking that power and using it to really be the custodians of certain people policies, and actually to be the mouthpiece of the employees instead of just being at the mercy of leadership.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, do you want to add to this?
I think this is probably a very, very difficult one. The question that I read there was saying, what if HR is the perpetrator? So now I'm being bullied, but I'm bullied by HR, and HR is the channel that I'm supposed to use to report bully behavior through. So that, I think, is a huge predicament. And let's not be kidding ourselves about that. That is quite a difficult situation to be in. But I would still suggest not to feel powerless, because remember, there's one of two ways. You can tolerate it, and you can be quiet about it, and you can feel the pain. You can talk to people about it that cannot change the situation, not do anything about it. That's one part. The other part is to call HR out directly and still take action. There's nothing that stops you, for example, to write a proper memo, or to write a letter addressed it to HR. So you would address it to HR with a record of, this is an incident, here's the situation, here are the people, and you can type it out. In your view, it's your experience and feeling, remember, so you can point it out in documentation, and you can sign it with the date and your name, and you can go to HR, even to the person that may be the perpetrator. And you can say to them, I've documented my experience of being bullied, and I would like for you to acknowledge that I am submitting this to you. You are HR, but this is my experience and claim against you, or my problem that I have toward what's been happening. And just make sure always that when you want to report a bullying behavior, a bully situation, that you first understand that it indeed was that. Okay, so if you're not sure, then speak with someone, get some advice, speak with other HR professionals just to hear from their perspective. If you have friends in the business or in the industry, just hear from their perspective as well. If your own HR practitioner or department seems to show bullying behavior against you, what can you do? I would imagine that if you would put it into a document and you go and hand it in, and you signed it, and you can even take a picture of it for your own records, and you can ask them to sign it there as well, that they're acknowledging the receipt of it. At least you have something to work with in the future, right? And if there's no change, and so then of course you can escalate it to a level, to the chief executive or any of the more executive members in the organization, and see what you can do. The worst thing that you would do is to keep quiet about it, to hope that it will go away, to not speak up about it, and to cry by yourself. That's the worst thing that you can do, because that behavior, as I said earlier, will repeat itself over and over and over again. I have personally been involved in many organizations where where perpetrators have been identified by staff members. And I have been functional in stepping in and mediating that process where either the people experienced bullying, but it wasn't that. It was more performance-related conversations that people received as bullying, but it was never bullying. It was insisting on performance, because sometimes people are also very sensitive when they are not performing well, then they feel their manager were bullying them. But all this time it was performance conversations that took place. So you want to make sure that it is bullying behavior, first of all. And then like people like myself and people, the panelists sitting here as well, we are used and contracted, to be part of the process of mediating and restoring relationships. And that's important. So if HR is the perpetrator, I'd say don't feel powerless even in that situation. You can still take it up, document it, and drive the accountability to call it out. That's most
high performance. So yeah, thank you to me for that. Vaneeta,
Yeah, cyberbullying. Yes.
cybercrime. What do you have to say?
Right now in India, schools have taken cyberbullying awareness and cyber fraud awareness very much seriously. Every year there is 1 or 2 day workshops for all the students from grade 6 to grade 12 to understand what is cyberbullying all about and how to save oneself from it. And I can say the impact of this workshop over years has made my son, who is 16 and a half now, more aware that he does not post any family pic on internet. He does not have a Facebook account yet. Till 14, he used to tell me that I will not make a Facebook account because I am not yet 14, and as per Facebook policy, one needs to be minimum 14 years of age. So that is the awareness that is coming in. Secondly, so awareness campaigns have been done on school level itself to make kids aware of it, because kids are the most victim of cyberbullying sometimes. Secondly, there are anti-cyberbullying laws in India. So there are cyber cells available. There is legal help available, like police stations. So if one is feeling that he or she is being stalked, or he or her identity has been stolen and being posted somewhere else, which are very common kind of frauds, he or she can just move on to the neighborhood cyber crime cell, and report his complaint, and some action would be taken on that complaint that is there. So either the stolen ID would be it will be eroded from the said platform, online platform, or the criminal would be traced somehow and be arrested or be warned about. So those kind of policies are there here in India. But still frauds do take place. Siphoning of money does take place. Many people claim that now that in this COVID-19, digital payments have been at large, the mode of payment, cash payment, has been reduced to almost minimum because of the coronavirus spread fear. So people do report that there were phone calls asking passwords and they gave it the passwords, or there were frauds about their bank account being siphoned off money when they made some digital payments online. My own father does not use digital payment. He says somebody will steal my credit card or debit cards and he is happy with the Paytm, cash payments. So we have hard. So my brother and I daily counsel him that please use digital payment. Please use digital payment with some bank account which has minimum amount of currency, so that even if somebody does fraud, you are not at large loss. But he doesn't want to. So yes, every kind of, but at large I feel Indians are becoming aware also, but they care less about it. So I can see many Facebook accounts, even of my friends, posting every kind of family pics. They just want to share, and there is a mindset that just go to hell. We are happy sharing.
Okay, thanks, Vaneeta. All right, so that leads me to this last question, and I'm going to ask, we're coming to an end now, but Precious, I'm prompting you to be ready to close for us, starting with Dr. Vaneeta.
Thank you, Dr. Gule. So I would say, in a nutshell, that I believe in the theory survival of the fittest. And I have been in an organization where I don't have choice of changing my job, changing organization. I was supposed to, unless I left it on my will, I was supposed to work there till my retirement at 65 years of age. And I joined that organization at the age of 22 years. So I had no choice to leave in case I feel any discomfort due to any colleague, and those colleagues also had to remain there till the age of 65. So think of that. So we have to be there, we have to survive, we have to fight for our rights. We have to expose the bullies, because ultimately when you are saying this person is bullying, it means that that person is being posed in a bad light. That also puts pressure on the mindset of the bully, that I have been shown as a bad character. Nobody wants to be bad. Nobody wants to be known as a bad man. Does anybody? Everybody wants to be seen as a good man, as a good human being, even if they are working on bad intentions, and sometimes unknowingly and sometimes knowingly. So survival of the fittest is should be the mantra, should be the key thought process in your mind, that we have to survive. We don't have to give up, and for that, take all the actions that you can take. Put up your voice, raise your concern, spread the word around. Even if somebody is responding or not responding, your word is going out about the bully. That is very, very important. And best of luck. You have to stay strong. Ultimately, you have got a birth as a human being. You have a voice to say. You can spread your message around. So use that strength.
Thank you. If you could please step in and grace us with your farewells. Thank you.
Wow, it's been an amazing session, and thank you so much to my co-host for holding today down. The network was not on my side, but I'm so grateful that we did manage to pull through. I've been listening keenly and very closely, and one of the key things I picked up today really was about the importance of advocating against corporate bullying. We all have a voice. It could simply be you putting up something on LinkedIn like I did, and everyone else coming in to expose such kind of behaviors in the workplace. Funny enough, you realize that the moment you expose this whole thing, I think I like what Goodnews said in our very first seminar. It's like when you expose an insect or a bug and you put it out there, you lay it bare and make it known that this bug is becoming a problem, sooner or later, bullies are going to be aware that there's people watching, people are speaking up against this thing, people are not happy about it, and people are going to stand up against any such bullying. Then we'll be working towards ensuring that our working environments are safer, they're more productive, organizations don't lose out on key people that could make it grow, because bullying becomes intolerable. Thank you so much to my co-hosts. I really appreciate the work you've done today. A special appreciation as well to Goodnews for opening the floor today. They say ladies first, but today you had to put it also out there. Thank you so much, Dr. Catherine. As always, the insight, we like the fact that you always give real life examples, and we can all relate. I thank you so much. Dr. Vaneeta, we appreciate, it looks like this thing is it's a global problem. It looks like global warming. Corporate bullying is a global problem. I could relate to everything you were talking about. And I can tell that you're already an advocate against corporate bullying in India, and hopefully we'll see this trend grow. Thank you, Tumi, always for insight, giving us the stats, and just putting it out there, and I like the fact that you also help us with practical ways of dealing with bullying, because people are not aware how to actually deal with it. The fact that one is told, stand up against it, because most times juniors will, shrink or just simply resign. And in turn, sometimes top management or those that should be dealing with this are not even aware while that young person left. So thank you so much really for that insight. And also to everyone that has joined us today, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much for those questions. Your contributions mean the world to us. And like Good News has said, I think it's time we take this seriously. We formalize and come up with some sort of advocacy against corporate bullying. It shouldn't just end in the webinar. We need to come up with ways to help people out. And like Dr. Catherine put it earlier, I like what she said. She said, if you don't deal with this, it'll affect you health-wise. And I thought to myself, I wonder how many people have gone to the hospital with migraines and stress and headaches because they were bullied or kicked out of a job they really liked. So it's that serious. It's that serious. I'd like to also give a special thanks. I noticed Richard Hams also did contribute quite a lot during the session, and everyone else for their input and really for making today happen. Yeah. I really appreciate that. And last but not least, my observation as well is that, as Dr. Catherine put it, it is women that are affected. And so I'm actually saying, men, go out there and fight with us, fight for us, and make sure that the corporate space makes it much more better for the women, because we are the ones affected. Yes. Thank you very much, Doc.
Okay, thank you so much, Precious. Can I ask everyone, we want to see your face. If you are in your PJs, I'm sorry, we want to see in your PJs. This is the time when we are getting out of here. So you unmute yourself, you show your face. I'm now playing you out of here. Listen to